What's going on, my friends? No skate park this week. I am on a little hiatus, let my body catch up. Also, I think I mentioned at the start of the season that I was doing skate parks every other week, trying to condense them into like more parks into one single trip to try and save on that gas money, because right now gas is like the same price as an ounce of gold, I believe. So I did get a request from my friend Bob. And because we got talking one day about stretching, and I had said that I stretch, a little bit before I skate, and I stretch every night, he had said that maybe I should make a stretch video, and that might be beneficial to other people, and certainly beneficial to him. He wanted to see my sort of stretching routine, and said, why don't you just make a video and post it, and then anybody who's interested can kind of see what you do to stretch. And I will tell you this, at 48 years old, I think that being flexible is one of the most crucial components to staying on top of my athletic game, to keeping myself as uninjured as possible. And that's whether it's overuse injuries or an injury from a fall. If you're flexible, you will just take a fall better. And if you're flexible, you'll have less chance of suffering from overuse injuries. So I stretch every single day. I do a long stretch in the evenings, just before bed. I do a stretch every night for about 15 minutes. And that stretch is focused on building flexibility. So I'm really stretching much longer, holding each stretch longer, and I'm looking to gain flexibility. Where when I stretch before I skateboard or after I skateboard, it's a very short, brief stretch, and there I'm just trying to loosen my body. So I'm not kind of holding the stretches as long or pushing as hard on the stretches. I'm just sort of letting my body weight go, and I'm just looking to loosen the muscles up. I know there's been a lot of debate over the years of whether you should stretch before a sport or after a sport or not at all, or whether you should do a warm-up, whether it should be static, dynamic, all of these different things. And personally, I'm sharing today what's worked for me. So I'm not trying to get in a debate about this. Usually when I skateboard, I like to stretch, a very brief stretch for about 5 minutes, and I tend to focus more on my lower body before I skate, because those are the muscles that are going to interact the most. I might do a little bit of upper body just to sort of loosen up my torso and loosen up my arms and stuff, but when I stretch in the evenings, I tend to do more of an overall stretch and really sort of loosen my body up and try and build flexibility. Also, when I skate, I prefer to warm up, so I'll skate the park for maybe 10 minutes without even doing a trick. I'm not ollieing yet, I'm just rolling around the park, so I'll do a brief stretch before that just to loosen the muscles, and then I'm trying to warm my muscles up before I start doing tricks. That's just the way that I like to get ready to skate or do any sort of athletic endeavor. But I'm going to take you through my stretching routine today. And some of these moves came from yoga, so I used to do yoga a long time ago, and some of these are just classic, like, probably learned them in gym class stretches. And I'm really focused on just getting through the whole body and trying to build flexibility. The way I like to work is from sort of the head down, typically. So I start sort of with my neck and shoulders, and then I sort of work through my core down to my legs. Sort of the exception I make here is I wait till the end to stretch out my hips, because I do that while I'm seated on the mat. So I like to kind of go through all of the stand-up stretches first, and then work my way down to a seated position on the mat, where I'll do a few more stretches down there, and I just find the hips are easier to do when I'm seated on the mat. So I'm going to take you through my stretching routine today and give you the basics of what I do. Typically I hold each one of these stretches for about 30 seconds, but for the sake of the video, so you don't have to watch me just standing in one position for 30 seconds, I'm probably going to only spend maybe 10 seconds in each pose as I sort of describe the pose and go through it. But typically I'm looking at about 30 seconds, sometimes 45 seconds per stretch, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. And I tend to focus if I've got some sort of injury or something going on, like let's say I've got knee tendonitis happening, I might stretch my quads 3 times in the session, because I want to loosen off my quads and the tension on my tendons there. So I'll usually do a little extra stretch for something that I'm focusing on. And a very brief anatomy lesson, just so we're all aware of what we're trying to accomplish. We're not stretching ligaments. Ligaments attach a bone to another bone. So that's like you've got your ACL, MCL, PCL in your knee. So those are ligaments that are holding the bone together, a joint together. Tendons go from a muscle to a bone. So one end of a tendon is attached to a bone as an anchor, and the other end is attached to your muscle. And then as your muscle contracts, it pulls on the tendon, and that's what articulates your arm, right? Or your knee. Okay, so what my focus is on is elongating muscles as much as I can, because a loose muscle puts less tension on the tendon. And if you've got a loose muscle and low tension on a tendon, tendinitis becomes less likely, and that has been something that I've struggled with my whole life, is tendinitis. And when a muscle tightens, it's going to put tension, it's going to pull on the tendon, and then what can happen is as you're moving a joint, the tendon starts to rub over the bone, and that's part of the reason why you'll get tendinitis or a flare-up. So if everything's loose, then things are flowing the way they should. Okay, so let's get into my stretching routine. Okay, so here we go. And I'm gonna do this in several different segments, and I'm gonna edit it together because for whatever reason my GoPro is being very difficult today, and it keeps freezing on me and shutting off. And this is actually my third time making this video, and I've gone through twice the entire video. Thought I had it made, looked at the camera, footage no good. Okay, so let's take it from the top up here. So we're gonna do the neck first, okay? First thing we're gonna do is just allow our head to sink down towards our chest, and we're trying to stretch the back of the neck here, nice and easy. Don't pull down too hard. The neck is a sensitive area. You want to take your time here. Then you're going to take your line of sight and look over this way towards one of your shoulders. You should feel the stretch through the back. And we're going to switch sides, and then you can feel the stretch through here. And then some gentle neck rolls. And then the other way. Take your time on the neck rolls. The neck is a sensitive area. Okay, after the neck, we're going to go into the shoulders now. We're going to do basically the trap and the delt, the traps and the delts here, okay? So first thing we're going to do now is we're going to cross our hands in front of us, and we're going to drive our hands to the floor. Your back is going to round a little bit, and you're trying to squeeze your shoulders forward, and you should feel the stretch through your back through here. Okay, after that, we're now going to take our hands and clasp them behind our backs like that, and we're going to drive straight to the ground again. And now you should be feeling the stretch through here, through your shoulders, as you're pulling your shoulders back and driving your hands down. Okay, so that takes care of our shoulders. Next will be the arms. Let's do our triceps. I'm going to bring the hand behind the head, reach one hand over, and we're going to pull. And now you should be feeling the stretch through here, through the back of your arm. And we switch, go over to this side, same thing. And again, you should be feeling through the back of this arm here. Okay. Biceps and chest. This can get a little tricky. Sometimes I'll use a door frame because we're going to try and pull back. Okay, we want to picture that my hands are going back towards the wall. Now, I can do that. I'm basically using my back to squeeze my arms back like that to open up my chest and my bicep. But you could picture putting your hands onto a door frame and leaning forward to pull back to give you a little extra leverage on that stretch. Okay, but we can open up like this, and you'll feel it across your arms and chest to open up that part. Okay, at this point we've done our neck, our shoulders, our back, our arms, and our chest. And now typically I skip the core section because I like to do that once I'm down on the yoga mat. And I'm just using a yoga mat because first of all, it gives me a little bit of traction so that my feet don't slide. And also it provides just a little thin cushion, a little bit of padding against the hard floor. All right, so let's go into the lower half of the body next. Okay, so for our lower half now, I tend to stretch the lower half much more than the upper half of my body. My legs, my hips down are much more geared towards the types of sports I do. So I'm really working on more sports-centric stretching, meaning Yes, there is some upper body movement, obviously, in skateboarding and different sports, but I tend to do, like the sports I like to do, cycling, skateboarding, inline skating, very much based on, lower half down, some core stuff too. But if I have an issue like I do with my knee tendonitis, then I might stretch my quads 3 or 4 times in the same session because I'm really working on that troubled area. Okay, so let's get into it. First thing we're going to do is just the standard quadricep stretch that you probably learned in gym class years ago. Balance on one leg. Now, if you don't have great balance, no problem. Use a wall, use a stool, use something there. I like to just do this because then I'm also sort of working on my balance at the same time while I'm stretching. Make sure that your leg isn't bowed out like that to the side. Bring it back, okay? And make sure that your upper body is straight and you're pulling back. With your quad, you should feel the stretch through the front of your leg. Over to the other side, we do the same thing. Now, if you want to get a bit more advanced with this stretch, I'll show you from the back. You can use both hands. So you can bring this hand in. So with both hands, you're just going to be able to pull a little bit more and extend that stretch just a little further than you would with just one hand. Okay, but you've got to be able to balance on one leg for that. I suppose you could lean yourself against the wall if you wanted to use both hands. Okay, so after the quads, time for the hamstrings. First one I do for the hamstrings is just your standard forward bend. Make sure your knees are straight. Don't bend your knees, okay? Knees are straight, and bend at the hips and keep your back as flat and straight as possible. So in the beginning, if that means you can only get to about this point, then so be it. Over time, you'll be able to stretch further and further. Okay, possibly getting, back of the hands on the ground, something like that. If you find you need to deepen the stretch a little bit and you're struggling, you can't just sort of reach it down. You could reach behind your legs or even down behind your ankles and begin to pull. Okay. Typically then I go back in for a second round on my quads. So I'll stretch the quadriceps again. Stretch this side again. And this is, again, because I've had so many knee problems, and a tight quad is going to put a lot of strain on the tendons that go over the kneecap, okay, the quadricep tendons. And if that's tight when you're bending your knee, those tendons are rubbing. So the more that I can loosen off my quads, the better my knees are going to feel, okay? After that, I like to do a split leg stretch for my hamstrings. So this is the second hamstring stretch. Now, if you want to do one hamstring stretch, pick one of the stretches, rotate them out, maybe do one night, a different one the next night. Again, knees straight, feet facing forward. If your flexibility isn't good in the beginning, you can lean on something. Otherwise, come straight down to the floor like this. And again, let's try and keep that back mostly straight. Okay, one side, step out. Set yourself up for the other side and back down. Okay, so now we've done 2 quads, 2 hamstrings. I like to go for a third round. So once again, I go with the quad stretches on either side. Okay, and again, I would be normally holding these for about 30 seconds, 45 seconds each time, trying to get a nice deep stretch. After that, I like to do a split leg stretch. Now, this is going to stretch through the groin and through the hamstrings, but it's going to hit the hamstrings at a bit of a different angle and try and stretch out that groin. So we're going to bend at the hips again, but try and keep the back straight. Reach for the ground. Sometimes I prefer to just lock my arms and let them hang as an extra counterweight to get a little bit deeper. Okay, over time, you'll be able to go a little bit further with your legs and stretch a little deeper. Then the next thing I do, add a little bonus. I reach across with one hand, and basically now I can feel this stretch through, so I'm also stretching my side here, and I can feel it on this leg. Then we're going to switch sides over here. And again, now I can feel it on this side, and I feel the stretch up this leg. Okay, then working our way down to the calves. I like to use a wall or something that I can lean against when I do this, but you can just lean on your own leg. Make sure we're stretching this calf, make sure this leg is staying straight, and we're leaning into the stretch like this. and you should feel it back there. Make sure your foot is not angled out. Foot has to be parallel to this foot, heading straight ahead. And again, holding that stretch. Come out, switch legs. Okay, and again, you can get over this leg. Don't lean too much forward like that. Keep this leg stretched. Have a good posture. Okay. The other way you can do it, you can put your foot up against something and lean in this way, and this will also stretch. Put your foot up onto like a step or a curb and lean forward. This will also stretch the calf, and that's something I might do. If I'm at the skate park and there's like an obstacle there, I can sort of lean on and stretch the calf that way, so it's just another option to do the calf stretch. Okay, so that covers our legs. Next, it's time to get down onto the mat. Now we're down on the mat, and we're gonna stretch the groin, so in here. So one of the ways you can do it is by holding your feet and leaning into your feet, but don't round your back. Keep your back straight, and you're gonna lean forward and pull yourself in, and you should feel the stretch through your groin. Okay, the other option is if you can just place your hands on your shins and use your forearms to push down on your legs like that. Also, you could prop yourself up against something, keep your back nice and straight, and then now you can focus just on the groin. And often I like to just let my my arms just rest and just let the weight of my arms open up my groin, and you should feel it in here. And this is a stretch I do quite a bit of now because physio identified this as a problem area, that my groin was very tight and could possibly be pulling my knees in during some of the maneuvers I'm doing on my skateboard. So I wanted to make sure that this was nice and loose. After that, we're going to stretch the hips. Hips can be a real problem too, leading to knee problems. So we're going to lay our leg flat on the ground, take the other leg over, and we're putting the heel against the quad behind the knee. We're going to wrap one hand over like this, so a little bit of a pretzel, and this hand's going to be a support. And we're looking this way and twisting our body, and we're pulling back on this hip. So you should feel this through your hip, from your butt straight up your leg. Then we're going to switch and do the other side. And again, leg flat, heel onto the quad behind the knee. This hand comes over to pull back. This hand is the support, and we twist into it. Now you'll feel it on this side, but if you lean forward a little bit over your opposite heel, you will start to feel it in the opposite hip as well, and you can essentially stretch both hips a little bit at the same time. Okay, and then finally we get to the abs. So we're going to do the classic cobra pose. Feet should be, the tops of the feet are on the floor, knees on the floor. You reach out as if you're doing some sort of lazy push-up, and now you want to allow your pelvis to sink towards the mat, but keep your head up. The back should be arched a little bit, and you should feel this stretch through here, through your abs and through your pelvis. And then the last pose I do, I just simply sink back and try and touch my butt to my heels. And you'll feel this stretch through your arms, through your chest, through your back, and even into your legs. Okay, so that's it for my stretching video, and hopefully this helps you a little bit with stretching. And if these stretches aren't perfect for you, then that's great. Find some stretches that work better for your needs. But hopefully overall this video has maybe made you think a little bit about flexibility, the importance of flexibility in sports, especially a sport like skateboarding. And maybe you'll start to warm up a little bit with a light stretch before or after you skate. Maybe you'll spend some time in the evening. And I would say this, stretching twice a week is still better than stretching no times a week. So I like to put it into my routine, but again, my goal is to continue being an athlete into my 50s, 60s, like forever. Until the day I'm dead, I want to continue to be athletic in some sort of capacity. So stretching is a key component to my overall health and fitness sort of plan. And hopefully this has inspired you a little bit too. If you have some questions about stretching, you can fire them off in the comments, and I will answer them as best I can. I'm by no means an expert, but I have been through 30 years of injuries and rehabilitation, and dealt with tons and tons of different kinds of injuries, from overuse injuries in sports like running to just impact injuries from skateboarding and things like that. So I've learned to work through a lot of injuries, and as an older athlete, I think I just have a bit more knowledge and experience in the injury department and the recovery department, and staying on top of injuries and staying healthy. So I'll see you in the next video with some more skate parks to check out, and until then, take care of yourself and maybe try doing a little bit of stretching.